It is no secret that when a new gacha game releases that mixes up and changes the formula a little bit, people start talking and people start to notice that, well, let's just say maybe what we have right now is not the best approach towards us, the player base, and that obviously developers can do better if they so desire. NTE's coming is no exception. I mean, we've seen this before with Honkai Star Rail's a 10 pull every patch. Ooh, Genshin could never because they gave a free doctor ratio. Ooh, snap. And then Wuthering Waves came up. A guaranteed weapon banner. Ooh, snap. Free Chang layout. Kind of like the same thing with Doctor Ratio. They pulled an SSR, really. Ooh, snap. Genshin could never, right? So we always see this happen, and now we have it with NTE. No 50-50. Ooh, what could never, right? Stuff like that. This will always keep happening, and NTE has definitely shaken up how we see these gacha games, especially the ones that apply the Hoyo formula we've seen before. And it seems that we have somebody whose entire perception of gacha has changed because of NTE. NTE made me realize something about gachas. What would that be? What? They're all the same. What do you mean they're all the same? They're clearly not all the same. Well, actually, you know what? Obviously, there's inspiration from one towards the other, and because of that inspiration, well, you will see a lot of resemblance between these titles. I mean, we see this all the time, right? You see it from Wuwa, took some stuff from Genshin. NTE is more blatant in its inspiration from Genshin. I mean, we look at the designs, the characters, the graphics, everything. It's kind of like a perfect middle, but I feel like they kind of have to because of optimization issues. They really want to capitalize on the mobile audience more so than Wuwa, because let's face it, Wuwa is very demanding. NTE is like in the middle of both Wuwa and Genshin, more demanding than Genshin. I mean, it is a 2026 game, but not as demanding as Wuwa, and yet the graphics are still very bright and beautiful. The world is also very beautiful, so it's a perfect middle, and you know what? I can get behind that. But let's see how NTE changed his perception about gachas. But first, a word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Angel GM. If you want cheaper Rift crystals in NTE, Angel GM offers up to 23% off on first-time purchases. New users also get an extra 8% coupon, so after stacking both discounts, the $100 package drops to around $78. Note that actual discounted price may vary by region. The process is simple. Enter your in-game email, then enter your in-game password. Your login info is obviously not going to be stored or used to access your account in later dates. Pick your server, pay the transaction, and the recharge arrives almost instantly. Plus, you still keep all first top-up bonuses and monthly card benefits. Angel GM is PCI DSS certified and has tons of positive Trustpilot reviews, so it's safe and trusted by a lot of players. So if you, like me, want as much 2D anime baddies as you can, use my link in the description box and start saving big today. Thank you, Angel GM, for sponsoring the channel. Let's get back into the video.
NTE has been out for a while now, and I've been thinking about this game a lot. Because compared to games like Wuthering Waves, the excitement around NTE feels weaker than it should, at least to me. And
the reason why it's the case is because Wuwa has already fixed the Genshin problem. The day when Wuwa was released, there was a huge issue. There was a massive amount of players that are in Genshin, that are stuck in Genshin or have quit Genshin looking for something new that is somewhat similar to Genshin. But there was nothing like that in the market. So Wuwa came in and capitalized on fixing that problem. And that's it. A lot of people are satisfied and aren't necessarily looking for another Genshin clone, right? That's because a lot of players like to call these Genshin clones, right? So these Genshin killers, the Genshin clones, whatever you want to call them, Wuwa has already solved that issue. And because of that, well, NTE is just now another thing we add to the rotation, and not, holy, this is finally the thing I needed to replace that garbage predatory developer practice having ass game. All right, it's just not the same, and this is the reason why.
after watching other creator channels, looking at analytics, checking
Okay, these NPCs need to chill. How are the NPCs so hot, man?
Google Trends, and also just playing the game myself, I think I finally understand why. And the problem isn't that NTE is a bad game. The problem is that players and myself are getting exhausted by the Genshin formula itself. And I think...
Interesting. We obviously don't have the same perspective here. Because to me, the hype is not necessarily all there because, well, Wuwa is already here. It solved the Genshin problem. That's it. We don't care about Genshin anymore. We're good. We're satisfied. We have uh, a better Genshin that feels better than Genshin. So we're fine. I feel like that's the main reason why a lot of players are not necessarily going to look at NTE, especially when NTE and you compare NTE to Wuthering Waves. Wuthering Waves is a more flashy, mechanically demanding game. If that's the type of player you are, which a lot of gamers are, and also the fact that you're already used to Wuthering Waves, a lot of players aren't necessarily going to add yet another open world game to their roster. I think that is by default how the market works, really, how the consumer works. So I feel like it's not maybe fatigue of the. It could be definitely a factor because I did hear the sentiment of players are tired of open world games. Apparently, like they're tired of gacha open world games. I think as long as the loop is good, which I think NTE has a good loop. I play Wuwa and NTE, and I'm satisfied with both. To be honest with you, I'm just having a good time every time I log into both. And by good time, I mean obliterating the opposition by one button. More so than NTE. Can we talk real quick about how NTE just one button you kill everything in those ascension resource dungeons things, when you need that money, the Mora shell credit, whatever you want to call it, or the XP books, they die in one button. What the hell is that? Hold on, it's like my character, my shit is E0 with no artifacts, no gear. How the hell am I killing everything in one button? Now, hold on now. I'm not that powerful yet.
This is going to become a problem for a lot of future gacha games too. So yeah, let's talk about it. So starting off, the biggest issue in my opinion is what I like to call Genshin formula saturation. And by that, I mean the entire structure of these post-Genshin gacha games. The leveling systems, the stamina systems.
The reason why they're going to keep doing this is because of familiarity. People are just familiar with this, and they're obviously trying to capitalize on the already existing player base and fan base of Hoyoverse. And Hoyoverse is obviously the giant. They're the number one gacha company, so of course they want to grab a pie, a piece of that pie that Hoyoverse has, and to do that, they want to bring them over, but not shock them by having to learn new predatory tactics, right? If you know how Hoyoverse works, you know how NTE and Wuwa works. It's not that complicated. They change up the terms, but it's basically the same shit. They just change up a little bit just to make it less predatory, so that way you feel like you are better treated here than there. But the reality is they have to do this for the sake of familiarity, for players to not have that shock factor, which may deter some players to want to dive in more, as we've seen in Arcanized Infield. A lot of people complained that the Arcanized Infield gacha felt complicated, it's a little too much, all those words and stuff, and understandably so. This makes all the players that are already existing, the very players they're trying to get, feel have a smoother transition from game A to game B because of this. It's smart. Like, it's just pure marketing. I'm not saying it's okay, of course. Obviously, a little bit of shifting would be nice, but the reality is they have a lot of incentive to go about it this way. And also, if you think about it, for us, the player base, well, it's fine. Like, I just look at all this stuff and I go, okay, so it's the same old stuff. All in all, I get to just keep working on my things as I wait for the new live updates. Because let's face it, there's nothing really interesting to do in these games besides developing and upgrading as much your units as much as possible as you wait for the new cool stuff to come out. That's basically the thing they do here. What obviously we should be asking for is better gameplay loops that are fun, are more interactive as we wait for the new cool stuff. But they don't necessarily want to give you that because, well, you won't be as excited for the new stuff, and that new stuff has marketing in it, in the sense of a new product with the character, the weapons that they're trying to sell you. They want to keep you satisfied just enough to stick around, but not too satisfied where when they present you with something new, you will be deterred in getting it because you won't have as much of an incentive. Because what makes these characters always feel refreshing is having new characters in your roster, different methods of playing, because every character typically have their own unique playstyle, as much as they can, of course. And that's the main reason why they do that. It sucks for us because the Corpa is there, the Predatory is there. It's annoying, but it is what it is.
The dailies, the gear grind, the talent upgrades, the
Yep.
long-term progression overall. So essentially, almost every mainstream anime gacha after Genshin Impact uses some version of the exact same structure. You level characters
Yeah.
using boss materials and books. You level
Oh no, all of them are the same. Oh, if you're talking about how you go about the everyday login grind, quote unquote, I mean, what grind is it when you can kill everything in 3 minutes, right? No, they're all the same. No, I'm having the same experience I had in Genshin and Wuthering Waves. I'm having the same experience in Wuthering Waves as NTE. They're the same. They're the same.
weapons, you farm materials for talents, you spend stamina, you do dailies, you farm gear, and you repeat. Now, luckily, most games
All of them.
add their own twist to it. NT changes some things, Wuthering Waves changed some things, but the core loop still feels very familiar, and I think that's becoming a serious issue.
I like how he called out they changed certain things, but it remains the same, which is exactly what I said at the start. I feel like that is so freaking blatant and obvious. It's so crazy. Yeah, they just, you know, instead of chocolate cake, we're gonna make vanilla cake, but it's still cake, right? It's a slightly different, and depending on the taste, one may appreciate this over the other, but they're still the same. So, yeah, do with that as you please.
Because when Genshin came out, that formula felt fresh. But then Wuthering Waves came out, and even though it still had similarities to Genshin, it changed enough things to feel very different. Basically,
I think what I'm trying to say also with the whole color of the cake is flavor, really. The fact of the matter is how you go about interacting with the game, the monsters, etc., is incredibly important. It is. I feel like it adds a lot of player expression, which is very important in the gameplay loop that these live service games want you to stay in. So when I see in NGA, for example, oh, I'm about to hit, you gotta dodge, you gotta be careful, and when you don't dodge, and I think also the lack of healers in NTE is somewhat refreshing because why have healers when you can just play okay? I've never played a gacha with no healer. This is new to me, by the way. The NTE no healer thing is very new to me. And when I saying that, and I'm rewarded for dodging, I'm rewarded for paying a little bit of attention, not too much, because it's still somewhat of a simple game because you can know when the opponent is about to hit you. It feels more interactive. It feels nice because in Wuwa I get hit all the time, but thankfully my shorekeeper is always there. Shorekeeper is, I think, in game in Withering Waves in the game it's always available. Like when you start a new account, you will always find Shorekeeper because they need you to have Shorekeeper, as it allows you to have the best experience in Withering Waves because of the lack of the oh, I'm about to hit you check, you know, that little red flashy thing that NTE does that Woo does not have. So a lot of players may have a harder time dodging, and myself included. I mean, I'm a bit of a casual, so I'm not that immersed in enemies' attack patterns, so I get hit a lot. But thankfully, I have a healer, so it's not that big of a deal. NG is slightly different in that, and you can start to see uh, some of the differences both titles try to approach the gameplay loop uh, in comparison to Genshin Impact. So I feel like this is also important. You know, it helps a lot because it makes the combat feel somewhat slightly unique to each title. That's good, in my opinion.
Physically, the combat felt faster, the movement felt better, the intro skill
Yes.
system changed the team gameplay a lot, the 3-party system instead of 4 also changed a few things in combat. Basically, the game had its own identity. But now, NT comes out, and instead of feeling like a completely new experience, NT made something like a mix between Genshin and Wuthering Waves
Yes.
rather than its own thing. And that's where the problem starts. The game started feeling just like any other gacha game, asking for your daily commitment, and that's a problem. Because players don't casually play gachas anymore, they commit to them.
Well, I think what he means is that by commitment, he means you have to log in every single day to keep up with the daily grind so that you can get the premium currency to pull for the 2D anime baddies. But in terms of commitment, now I think a lot of players are starting to really treat gacha games the way they should be treated, as side games. You know, you play them for like a quick 5 to 10 minutes, and then you move on to your main game while you wait for the new live update, because you know you can get an afternoon or two out of these gacha games at some point in the future, which can be fun. But to get there, you're not willing to invest that much time and effort into them because you understand the nature of what you're dealing with, like a side chick. So, yeah, unfortunately, commitment may be a confusing term to some, but I think that's what he meant.
These games stop being games and start becoming routines. You log in, you spend stamina, you do dailies, you farm materials, you optimize builds, you repeat that process for months.
Well, the reason why, of course, that is the case is because, well, they got to make sure the premium currency is worth it, you know. So, well, if you don't want to do that, you can just spend. I mean, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? You know. If you're going to do that, at least use today's sponsor.
Materials, you optimize builds, you repeat that process for months, sometimes even more. And once you already have one or
Oh yeah, more. I mean, I've been playing Wuthering Waves for years, since the day of launch. I've been logging in basically every single day. Genshin 2 years, SSR. Yeah, I mean, these are quite the. It's like he said, commitment, but not in the true sense of the term. Like, you know, you're there, you log in and stuff, but we're not committed. Like to, oh, I need to understand everything about this game. Oh, I'm spreadsheeting this. Nah, hell no.
2 games doing that, adding another one becomes exhausting. Like, imagine this: you already play Genshin or Nikkei like me, then you add Wuthering Waves. Okay, it's manageable, but now you add NT on top of that too. Now suddenly, every day you have multiple stamina systems, multiple
Well, obviously, you're not a gacha god. The gacha god would be ashamed of you. Whoever has the same sentiment, I'm one of them. The gacha god would be ashamed of us, man. We can only play 2 gachas or 3. Pfft, that's rookie numbers. Obviously, this type of thing is not something a lot of the silent majority and people like us, the normies, are going to be able to keep up with. He makes a very good point here. That's why I play 2. I play NTE and Wuthering Waves. I might add something in the future if it's good. Might drop something if I fell out of love with. But for example, NTE right now, that's kind of where NTE kind of has to win us over, because by the time 2.0 comes out, or maybe Ananta comes out, or a new competitor comes out, if NTE isn't showing that it is this amazing title behind, and the studio behind it is very receptive to feedback and is willing to keep pushing the boundaries and trying to give us amazing content, a lot of we'll just drop it, man. We'll just drop it. Yes, it's like, well, you failed. Tough. There's something new now. Yeah, that's basically what I did. Like when, well, I quit SSR because of power creep and also how annoying it started to become to just play. So I just dropped it. I was like, yeah, no, I don't think I want to. I have the time or the energy for that. Also, something very important, depending on also the person in question, because I feel like there are moments in my life where I have the tolerance and the time and the energy to deal with multiple gachas, and others not so much. I remember at some point I couldn't play any gacha. I was so burnt out. I was so tired. I just paused. Like I just was like, "Hey guys, can anybody just take care of my account while I just have a quick break?" Some of my boys was like, "I got you." And like right now, Genshin SSR, I have my boy Happy taking care of that. For example, I was overwhelmed and I couldn't do events in Wuthering Waves. I asked my boy TGV to take care of that stuff. Shouts out to both boys, right? So sometimes you can do everything. Sometimes you can do just the bare minimum. Sometimes you can't do nothing. I feel like that is also something very important to keep in mind as you go about uh, tackling your sentiment towards these gacha games, because how you are at the time matters tremendously.
dailies, multiple events, multiple gear systems, multiple character grinds. And worst of all, they all start to feel the same. Eventually, the excitement of a new game goes away and gets replaced by one thought: do I really want another daily grind? And I think that is the real issue NT is facing. Not graphics, not optimization, not even combat is the core issue. It's time. These games compete more for your time than your money.
100%. And then they try to trick you that in order for you to save time, spend money, which is always a good exchange because I love to purchase time. Oh, freaking love that. That's why I love Uber and stuff. But at some point, you're gonna have to, since money is a finite resource, it makes it very hard. Like, you got to choose, you got to pick your poison. He makes a very good point here, and that's something I've said for the longest time. Ultimately, you are the hottest commodity. All of these gacha games, all of them want you. They all want you. And how can I put this? Because of that, you are going to have to make a choice on which you really prefer. And I feel like preference matters tremendously as you approach multiple gotchas. I think it really does. So, this is very subjective. I feel like this is a very, very subjective topic. And depending on who we ask, whether or not you can handle all of them, we are all built different, right? We have the gotcha gods who can play 10 different gotchas a day. We have your normies who can play like one or two, like myself. Well, technically, I'm like below a normie. I'm like a normie. I'm like a high level normie. Then we have a gotcha normies. They can play like three or five, right? Etc. Etc. So I believe, whilst there could be a good general consensus to this, which is players typically liking 1 to 3 gotchas and sticking to their own preferences or maybe more. The fact is, you really want to be subjective, and when you look at this topic as an individual at an individual level, you have to ask yourself the question, does this apply to me or not, and not let how others go about their enjoyment and their game time affect you necessarily, because what you enjoy and what you can tolerate and what you can, we all have different stats in all of the things that matter in terms of this topic. And you always base your opinion on yours, and not necessarily be condescending towards others, of course, nor try to not understand where people are coming from and why they want to, let's just say, have something different within this space and how these companies go about approaching this type of conversation. So, because let's face it, I feel like we need a better gameplay loop, but it's hard to ask from them because it comes at the cost, it conflicts with their bottom line, which is very tricky to get from these guys. But we are seeing new anime based games like Kanata coming in that just is monetizing through cosmetics only, so they're not being that predatory. So maybe it could be the start of the shift we want, because the fact is, I think there is going to be very soon a strong level of gacha fatigue. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen eventually. And when that does, companies like the ones behind Ananta want to capitalize on that, because you still like anime, you still like gaming, but you're just tired of all that predatory garbage that gets in the way of true enjoyment, especially everyday gameplay loop. And we're gonna have titles like that, because I remember Gacha Smack talked to certain developers of anime-based games, and they told them that we don't necessarily want to have gacha because the data shows that there is a bit of a beginning of a trend of gacha fatigue. So something to also keep in mind.
And time is the most valuable thing a person has. Now, obviously, some games survive this problem anyway. Why? Because they offer something strong enough to transcend the formula. Some games survive because they have a unique identity like Nick.
Yeah.
Okay, a revolutionary gameplay system like Wuthering Waves, strong emotional attachment, or a huge cultural impact like Genshin. That's part of why some games are still so dominant. And it's also why games like Ananta are getting so much attention, because when I look at Ananta, I don't immediately think, oh, another Genshin clone. It feels different, the urban setting feels different, the social interactions feel different, the entire vibe feels more focused on living inside the city itself instead of just another progression treadmill. And all of this just by seeing trailers and the developers' statements. And most important,
so he thought the same thing too. Yeah, great minds think alike. The fact is, you see what's coming. You see how other developers are picking up on the fatigue. They're gonna have different approaches, which is just smart.
importantly of all, it feels like it's trying to escape the traditional formula. Now,
Yes.
let's talk about specifically NT, because I actually do think the game has potential. The city is genuinely good, the co-op and multiplayer potential is massive, some character designs are amazing, and the intro of the story honestly grabbed my attention pretty well. It was somewhat confusing, sure, but it felt interesting. The problem is that after the intro, the
Is it just me or everything feels confusing at the start? Because like you're still trying to get used to the terms, the factions, all that. Because it's a big world, but it's scary and it's annoying to really start to understand. Even to this day, in Wuthering Waves, I still don't know half of the fractions, man. Of the factions, like okay, there's the ones in Huanglong, there's the ones with Carlota, and then there's the one with the jelly girl with big boobs. What was her name again? I forgot. Camellia maybe or something like that. I forgot. I'm pretty sure it's not. I butchered that. I'm sure. But you know what I'm talking about. Like there's all these factions. There's the Fraxids, of course, are the enemies. And I'm pretty sure there's others too. I just forgot. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's just confusing.
game completely lost momentum for me, especially during the Tagido section. And at that
Oh yeah, that a lot of people.
time, I didn't think that quest was the worst thing ever made, but when I look back at it, yeah, it was pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie. And that was the moment where the game stopped feeling special. That's the important part, because before that point, I felt like, okay, this game could really become something huge. But after that section, it suddenly felt like the game fell into the same trap a lot of gachas fall into, filler. And once that feeling enters your mind, it changes the entire experience. Because now every new quest makes you wonder, is this actually important or is this just another filler section?
I feel like anime as a media falls into this trap. I could be wrong on this one, but I don't think I am because a lot of the time some episodes feel completely irrelevant and useless. But I've always okay, so in hindsight, at the time they suck, but in hindsight, it's very important in the sense of world building. You see the characters interacting in a different dynamic, right? It's not all serious. It's not always about the main plot. There's always these subplots where the characters can interact, which can feel pretty fun, right? Like filler is not inherently bad, but it really needs you to be in love with this. And the fact is, the Tagido quest came very early. We don't know these characters like that yet. Don't do this. And they did, and it made the game, it made the story, to be specific, not feel the greatest. And of course, like he said, players are going to be more careful about how they go about it. I'm not going to lie, he makes a good point because in my experience, I started skipping a lot after the Tagido quest because couldn't recognize what is very important to the main story quest and what is not. Once I did, I stopped. But at some point, I missed a lot of cutscenes, like the G1 introduction. I think she has a cutscene where she shows up. I skipped that. I didn't see that. I saw it on YouTube. Hathor as well. I didn't see that. I saw that on YouTube. So it really sucks because at some point it makes people feel confused, myself included. And I found myself skipping things that could have otherwise been cool to see. They're not that important, of course. I mean, it doesn't inherently matter in the end of the day in the overarching plot. But there were nice cutscenes that, unfortunately, because of fucking Tagido, I had to see later on YouTube and not in the game and have that shock factor as I played the game, which sucks.
And for a live service story game, that's dangerous, especially when players already have other games competing for their attention. Another thing that
Yes.
started worrying me was the analytics side of things. When I look at YouTube views, Google Trends, overall discussion, I noticed the interest dropped pretty hard after launch. Now, to be fair,
That's typically all games do that.
it did stabilize more than Enfield did because that game is bleeding players to this day. So I don't think NT is there.
Enfield, unfortunately, is very niche. NTE, see, here's the thing. Whilst this is the problem in these numbers right here, the fact is, when a game tries to be somewhat different, somewhat more niche, this is what happens. And when you just keep something that is, let's just say, true to what the players are already familiar with, this is what happens. You can see why companies are going to look at these numbers and go, well, you know what? Let's just do it like the way Hoyo does. Like, why would we risk that much? It's like the bigger the risk, the higher the reward, but also the bigger the drop. So you can see why they want to do that. It's literally right here.
did, because that game is bleeding players to this day. So I don't think NTE is dead or anything dramatic like that, but I do think it revealed something important. Being a good game is no longer enough. Modern gacha games now need to be good and unique, or they at least need to do everything better than everyone else. Better progression, better combat, better exploration, better
Here's the thing, I don't think NTE is trying to do that.
pacing, better story. Because if your game reminds players too much of another game they already invested years into, then players start asking themselves, why should I restart this entire grind again? And honestly, more and more players are starting to answer that question, and it's with a no. Personally, I still like NTE. I'm still going to play. I still see potential in it. And I definitely
Yeah.
want to test more the co-op because I think that could become one of the game's biggest strengths. But
Yep.
I also think the market has changed. You can't just be another good anime gacha anymore. You need
No, yes, they will, and this is it, because they look at their investment. They're gonna look at the numbers, and they're gonna go, well, we have all this money invested. Do you want it to maybe flop in something like Arknights Infield and not be this solid, somewhat established one? It's obviously not trying to be the best thing ever. It's not trying to, uh, let's just say, surpass the others, but it's definitely trying to make its place in the market. So a lot of the times, what happens is, they know they're not gonna outcompete the others. They know that, and because the problem is, it's not just also because look at the Wuthering Waves. They did everything better than Genshin Impact, but yet Genshin Impact retains the number one most popular gacha game in the market. Like, you don't have to be the best at everything and do that for you to be the most popular. Players just need a good game that they can feel joy with. And if it resonates with the majority, great. If not, well, tough. But one thing these companies are going to try to do is at least make sure their investment is safe. They can get their investment money back and then try to expand from there. But until that happens, I don't think they'll want to risk too much, unless it's other developers, for example, like the Ananja ones. That's a different approach. And this is the thing, companies are going to have different approaches on how they go about presenting their products in the market in terms of how the formula they want the players to go through in their game. So obviously the incentives are there. It is what it is. You're gonna have to pick your poison. If you want something more niche, there's something like Arknights Enfield, in the future Ananta. If you want something that is still good and you know exactly how it is, you're familiar with it, etc., there's stuff like NTE that clearly has elements that are better than the ones other games are present right now in the market. For example, in Wuthering Waves, the NTE gacha is better and more friendly than Wuthering Waves. But Wuthering Waves, for example, is more complicated as a game. Mechanically speaking, NTE is not, right? So it goes. Like you get to pick and choose which one works the best for you. Or if you're like me, you just play both. And because let's face it, everyday grind is just like, what, 3-5 minutes in each game.
need a real identity, because when I look at games like Nikkei or Ananta, I don't instantly think about Genshin, but when I look at NTE, I can see some similarities, and I think that's the biggest danger for the game long term, because the real question right now isn't whether NTE is good, the real question is whether players even have room for another game like this anymore. Anyway,
Okay, you know what? We can do a little quick Google search. How much did the Neverness to Everness cost in development? So, Everness had an estimated development budget of approximately $44 million. According to financial reports, other estimates, community reports that the cost slightly lower than the range 24 to 43. So, you know what? Let's just max it right there. The game quickly recouped this investment, generating approximately 14 million USD globally on launch day alone. And I'm pretty sure these numbers are still going to keep growing here. And this is what these companies are going to try and do, is because the fact is, you know what? Hold on. They unfortunately just tell you the first day, which is the 14 mil, but we don't know the entirety of 1.0. I guess we're going to have to wait and find out. But you're starting to see why this matters a lot, because if I'm the publisher and on day one I made 14 mil, but by the end of this month or by the end of maybe the year, I haven't made back $44 million. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to feel pretty good about this. So they can kick back now and feel a little safer because they understand that the formula in which they approach the game is somewhat on the safer side. I think you're starting to see why this is probably going to keep happening for a lot of titles, but not more so others. And I feel like if you really want, you have to you have to speak with your actions. Support games like Ananta. If they really resonate with you, or so Arcanized Enfields, they really resonate with you, etc. Like you have to really speak on niche stuff. But the problem is, even if you speak on niche stuff, unless other developers are going to try to do the same thing in that niche, it doesn't inherently matter. Besides the fact that, oh well, they found this good formula that worked for a lot of players, we can capitalize on it. But you're just going to have the same problems. Like, oh well, we saw Arcanized Enfield really do good now, so now we're going to have Arcanized Enfield clones. So it's really the same thing, because that's just how the market works. If something works, if you see a pizza place full of customers all the time, guess what's going to happen? You're going to find other pizza places open right next to it. They're all trying to capitalize on the success that this particular area has gotten through that one pizza place. That's just the way of the market works.
Anyway, those were my thoughts. Comment down below if you agree or disagree, because honestly,
Oh, I made a whole
think
video,
this
man.
could be one of the most important discussions happening in the gacha space. And yeah, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Also join our Discord, we are daily active, and see you next time.
All right, man. There it is, man. There it is. I feel like this is a good conversation to have, in the sense of you really want to know what's going on in the market and the things you're dealing with, the other elements and other factors that are in play as to why this behavior keeps on happening, how you can be more disciplined in your approach to this whole formula that's happening right now. So yeah, man, I think all in all, I think this is just the way things are. All right, now let's call a spade a spade. This is the way things are. NTE is clearly not trying to be the end-all be-all, but I feel like it did a good job to find its place in the market. And I think I like the game. And just like him, I like the game. I think a lot of players like the game. We know that it's not supposed to be peak gaming, but for many Neo type of gamers that are not into sweaty, more mechanically demanding games, like Wuthering Waves, for example, and they're not like really into, or maybe they're into Genshin Impact, for example, they just want an evolution because of the recent boycott. NTE is a good, let's just say, middle ground they can just go to as they expand their gaming experiences and their gaming tastes. Because sometimes, you know, some players may be deterred from playing something because it's more mechanically demanding. They're not there yet, so like they, you know, they don't feel that dopamine of, oh, you did it, you won, you beat this boss and stuff. They're not willing, because let's call a spade a spade. A lot of players, a lot of games right now, they kind of hold your hand into beating content. All right, let's call a spade a spade. And the neo gamers, unlike us that grew up with consoles and stuff, a lot of them are like this. So they need games that are somewhat easier, that can allow them to feel like they are winning, they are good at the game, get that dopamine, but still somewhat be challenging enough to, you know, be satisfying and competitive a bit, especially for guys. So yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. Be seeing you.